This is AI Studio, where top-notch experts analyze the latest trends of artificial intelligence. I'm your host, Levente. Let's get started. Hello and Happy New Year to everybody. Welcome to AI Studio. This is Season 3, Episode 2. Our topic today is AI medical research. And our guest is Mark Lambrecht, Director of Global Health and Life Sciences Practice at SAS, which is a member organization of the Hungarian AI Coalition. Thank you so much for joining us, Mark. I'm thrilled to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, Levente.
First of all, Happy New Year to you. I assume you've been waiting for the new year to come, just like many of us. What are your expectations of 2021? Can you see the light at the end of the tunnel yet?
I can, but it is, we call it a year of the vaccine. No surprise there. And I think we're looking forward to the end of the year to get out of this crisis and this pandemic. Like everyone else, we're also excited with the impact of AI and technology and what's happening around us. So positive outlook there.
Cool. So why don't we just cut to the chase, right? And deep dive into our topic today, which I have to admit, which might sound a little bit more complex than usual. But I can promise to all of our listeners that we're going to be applying the so-called KISS principle, which stands for Keep It Simple, Sweetheart. I learned this from a book on investing. So, and ever since I read this book, I just figured that this is the principle I need to apply for the rest of my life, basically for everything. So
I'll write it down.
So let's stick to the KISS principle then. And you know what? Probably if somebody hears the term AI medical research, most of us remembers the COVID vaccine, right? That's what comes to our mind first, especially now that the mass vaccinations have started in many countries. So I would suggest we get started with exploring the role of AI. The role of AI played in accelerating vaccine development. How about that?
Okay. Well, it's first we need to have a definition, I think, to talk about what do we truly mean by AI, and to respect your KISS principle here. I think there's a narrow and a broad definition. The narrow one is really talking about intelligence by computers and the fact that computers can learn by themselves and look at complex data sets using techniques and help us with managing data that is very difficult to analyze by humans, basically because they're so complex. However, when you look what AI has been used at broadly, there is also a broad definition, and it's really anything that a computer is used to analyze data, whether it's statistics or machine learning or deep learning, any type of algorithm really that helps you to analyze data. And if you look at COVID vaccine, and if you look at how vaccines are being produced, and this is not just because of the COVID vaccine, there is analytics and technology really everywhere. Of course, at the heart of discovering a vaccine is biology, and biology means labs experiments and finding technology and platforms that work. But with that lab technology, a lot of data is being produced, and there comes in the analytics and the AI to analyze that data. So absolutely, during the production of COVID vaccine, analytics and AI has been used to determine, for example, if the vaccine was more efficient than not being vaccinated. So just proving the value of the vaccine. It's also being used to look for antiviral molecules. A lot of companies today are not just looking for vaccines that would help us get rid of this pandemic, but also look for antiviral molecules that will make us, protect us from becoming very, very ill, hopefully not ending up in an intensive care unit, for example. Maybe just finally, there is a lot of analytics being used also in the pandemic to look at how is the pandemic going, where are the people that, where are the infections going and the numbers going and all of that.
Yeah, true. Yeah, contact tracing is also very big. And I don't know where we would be without the help of AI. So, by the way, are you gonna get vaccinated now that we started talking about the vaccine?
Absolutely. I'll be the first one. If they call me, I'll jump in the car and go to get myself vaccinated. And I very much look forward to that day that we can go out again and travel. And I think this vaccine is truly a miracle that we were able to create that as a society in under 1 year. It's an impressive scientific achievement, and you can really compare it to getting to the moon in the 60s. So out of something really bad, a pandemic, comes something really good, that by working together, humanity was able to produce this vaccine.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? I mean, it's truly unprecedented, as you just put it. And this is what basically also just got me thinking whether AI can make R&D safer as well, because some people fear that maybe the vaccines were developed in a rush that is beyond the point, beyond the risk many are willing to take. Do you think this time was really enough to develop a safe vaccine?
Yes, I do think it was absolutely safe. And the reason I'm saying that is that the procedures to make sure that these vaccines are safe were being absolutely respected. The reason why it could be squeezed in under a year, because some of these vaccines are based on novel technologies that were never used before, like the one from Pfizer and Moderna based on mRNA technologies. Well, the reason they could do that is because first of all, governments invested and took up the risk of failure. Often that is one thing. And secondly, there was a lot of parallelization. So a lot of procedures that normally are done sequentially have now been done in parallel. And that's really allowed us to speed up the production of this vaccine. But I think what your listeners need to know is that as the vaccine has been approved, that all the safety analysis, again, AI analytics coming in play here, have been respected. And also while the population is being vaccinated, every company and every health system is obliged by law to report on possible safety problems, and they're constantly being studied, and we're constantly learning from that. So it's absolutely safe, and no doubt about it that this will be enormously helpful.
Right. So it's really good to know that AI is going to help us in the follow-up phase of the vaccination, and this can basically help us keep track of any kind of side effects that might emerge. So, do you think we can say that AI basically is no longer a hype here, but rather an indispensable item in the toolkit of modern clinical research?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it comes back to what I believe it was Bill Gates who said, any new technological breakthrough is overestimated on the short term, but underestimated on a longer term. And I think that's applicable for AI as well. In fact, it's applicable to all of the technological aspects that are being used in medical research and in clinical research. It wasn't a hype before this pandemic, and it's percolating in every aspect of how we discover new medicines, of how they're being brought to the market, of how healthcare is being applied safely to patients, of how clinical trials are being run, all of that, how we can use these big amounts of data to discover patterns, etc. And it's really revolutionizing and speeding up the way that research is being done. At the same time, we need to stress that AI by itself is an instrument that helps humans to be more efficient. And it's really scientific research at heart that is instrumentalized by AI and analytics to go faster, to do more automation, to make the right decisions, and to complement what humans are so good at, and that is putting different pieces of evidence and information in a good context.
Right. I'm so glad you mentioned all these advantages AI has to offer, and this is one of the purposes, of this podcast. Also, to spread the word about the fact how helpful AI can be, and how actually it's going to complement humans, as you just also put it. Instead of replacing them. Actually, that's why within the Hungarian AI Coalition, people tend to refer to AI as assisted intelligence, which is also, of course, a very a popular term as well in the industry. So great. Now let's move on and let's talk about decentralized trials, because I saw you tweeting about it, and it really caught my eye, and I really want to know what this is all about, what does it mean, and how can we benefit from such a shift? Because it seems to me, or at least that's how I read, that we tend to be moving towards decentralized trials.
Absolutely. And first of all, clinical trials are really being run to test new medications or new therapies or new possibilities of treating a patient for the benefit of curing their disease or helping them find a higher quality of life, for example. In one of the aspects with clinical trials is they're very expensive to run, and they run for a long time. And pharmaceutical companies and academic institutions that run clinical trials, they often invest in clinical trials, but have difficulty finding patients that participate in trials and that stay on the trial for a long time. So this is where the word decentralization comes in of trials, and I'll try to explain it as simple as possible. In the COVID-19 pandemic, one of the first impacts that you saw was that patients were unwilling or unable to go to a hospital. And why would you send a patient that has cancer to a hospital where they risk the chance of being infected with COVID-19 virus and getting themselves in trouble? So that meant that a lot of clinical trials have been delayed, that patients didn't come into the hospitals, they couldn't be taken blood or measured certain parameters or see how they progressed with the certain therapy under investigation. And so it was already a recognition from a lot of pharmaceutical sponsors before the pandemic that we need to really rebuild clinical research around the patient, meaning we need to make it as easy as possible for patients to participate in research in full transparency. Let them be at home as much as possible, or to their family, go to their family doctor, and avoid that they have to come in for each and every little measurement to the hospital, for example. So put the burden on the organizer, not on the patient themselves, and advance clinical research. And so in a way, that's where AI and things like virtual health and telemedicine come in, where you can equip patients with sensors at home and measure their blood pressure while they're at home. You can use internet technologies. You can use apps so that they can hand in the morning how they feel, if they have a headache that morning when they get up. And all that information can be collected. So there's a whole logistics around it that can run all of a sudden in a decentralized way. And that really changes the way that patients are being included in clinical research. And in addition, you can have more patients entering in clinical research. So stronger evidence being produced of, okay, this new medicine here is really working, because we weren't able to test it on 100 patients, but maybe on 200 patients. So all of that really changes the way that we look at clinical research. And I think that's just a fantastic example of where technology is helping humanity again.
What you've been saying is makes it perfectly clear, how big opportunities we've got all over the place, and how actually AI can be involved in all these aspects. Now let's move on to personalized treatment, because that's something many people are very, very much excited about, and they have such high hopes that that this personalized treatment as a phenomenon can basically be the beginning of a whole new era in healthcare. So how can AI facilitate it, and where are we on this road already?
Yeah, there's again a lot to be said about that. And one of the things we always should avoid is to generalize too much, because there's different diseases and there's different states of disease. And so difficult to project on a single patient with a single rare disease, for example. But it's true that personalized treatments in many therapeutic areas like oncology, for example, have made a huge impact and are making a huge impact. it's because, ironically, it's because we have, for example, more data. The holy grail of clinical research is really getting closer to the patient. And getting closer to the patient means that you can have more information about that single patient. You can have, for example, all of their medical records available to study. You can also look at their genomics, so the DNA that they have, the genetic information that they is in their cells, and then also the wearables and sensors can also produce a lot of data about the patient, in what state the patient is. All of that means that you can get closer to the patient and really form yourself a good picture of the patient and how to treat that patient specifically with therapies that are adapted for their state. For example, in oncology, you can have looking at the mutations in the cancer and treat the patient according to those mutations so that the medicine they're getting is really working for that patient. And so you get closer to an individual treatment that is really personalized as such. Also, AI and analytics is helping enormously there because, again, you can have software even, for example, as a medical device, as an app that helps to treat a patient with a certain mental problem, for example, or a certain mental health problem. And so what you see is that now analytics is also being used as a medicine itself. Apps are being approved as medicines. We call it software and medical device, and the regulators and authorities are even putting up guidelines how to do that. And so looking at that whole analytical environment means that you can have more personalized treatment. You can have a better view on that and get closer. And we even have now treatments like genetic therapy treatments that can cure a patient in terms of if they have a genetic mutation in a certain number of cells, and that you can rectify that by applying a certain genetic therapy to that. Those therapies are today sometimes even developed for a single patient based on their mutation, and they call it N of 1 clinical trials or N of 1 therapies. And that means that you have to, that companies are creating a therapy for that single patient. And you can imagine the impact that has on making sure that those are safe and the investment going in terms of technology. So I think where we are here in terms of the personalized medicine, probably better understandable if we compare it with the invention of the iPhone on the market in 2007. If we think back to 2007, when the iPhone came on the market, everybody said, wow, this is truly breakthrough, but we're not exactly sure how it will change society. Well, here we are 13 years down the road, where all these apps and where the iPhone and the smartphone has truly revolutionized the way we deal with information. It's a similar state where we are here. We're going to harvest the benefit of 25 years of investment in genetic therapies, in individual therapies, in AI. And it's this perfect storm in which technology, cloud, computers with genetic therapies are really producing new solutions. And by combining those in interdisciplinary teams where you see a lot more therapies coming along, hopefully that are affordable still, because that will be the challenge. How can we make them affordable?
Yeah. And when I was listening to you, I really had this question: like, by what time it can be a reality that personalized treatment becomes widespread?
It's here already to some extent. There are therapies today for curing some forms of blindness, for curing some diseases like SMA, spinal muscular atrophia, for people that have mobility problems at birth, and where you can really cure and rectify that problem. And you'll see many more coming on the market, for example, but also in producing cocktails of medicines for people with cancer, where it's more individualized and higher rates of success, etc. So it's here already, but it will not decrease. Obviously, we're at the beginning of a Cambrian explosion of these type of personalized therapies.
Yeah. Well, I guess we can't wait for that to happen, and we're very excited about that to happen too. Now, I really wanted to ask you what you think about Hungary's efforts, to to spread the word about AI, to launch a large-scale awareness campaign, which is labeled as AI Challenge around here. And AI Challenge has two main objectives. One, to reach out to 1 million Hungarians about the importance of the technology, and two, to get 100,000 people to complete a basic AI course. Now, I wanted to ask you whether you believe such awareness campaigns have any impact at all, whether they make sense. What do you think?
I think it's fantastic. First of all, I absolutely think it makes sense. It's a fantastic idea. I learned it through you, Levente, here, this campaign. I wasn't aware of it before. But looking at this program is important, and I'll explain to you why I feel that that's important. First of all, we need more people that want to study and educate themselves in AI, and we need more people that can help us deal with this technology, not just from, let's say, the analytical or programming or technology sense, but also understand how we can apply it in society. And because AI can have such a big impact in society, for example, in terms of decisions that are being made, not just in healthcare, but at large in a society, it really requires a large population to be involved and make those decisions. This technology cannot just be the playground of a number of specialists that use it for very specific applications. It needs to be a democratic choice where we invest in AI, for what reason, and how we apply it, because there's some ethical choices and some societal choices that will need to be made by applying it and avoiding that misused, and that we understand what the impact and the benefits and the dangers are as well. There's certainly a lot of hype on AI, but there is also a true impact, and there's also a responsibility there. So by training so many people on the principles and the basics of artificial intelligence, you really create that context and that understanding with a broader set of people that can support it and that can help you make the right choices when they need to be made.
Indeed, and I'm so happy that you like the idea yourself. And yes, the whole idea behind this AI challenge was to make sure that people are not afraid. People don't have any concerns about the technology, and they have a better understanding of how it can actually help us in our everyday lives and in our jobs. Because let's face it, there are many things we don't really want to do anymore, all those repetitive, boring stuff, and why not have machines do that for us. Also, I just wanted to add, we're so happy about the proactive engagement of our member organizations, including SAS, of course. We have nearly 300 organizations by now in the Hungarian AI Coalition, and we're shaping the implementation of the AI strategy, of Hungary's AI strategy together. And the AI challenge is basically an important pillar of the AI strategy. Okay, so I guess there are only a few more things to discuss for today. And why don't we just, start finishing off our show by discussing the future role of AI in medicine as such, and maybe more specifically in medical research, because you've made a couple of references already, how you expect this phenomenon is going to go. But let's just give a little bit more examples what to expect for the future.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a bright future ahead, but it comes with some responsibility as well. And maybe first about the things that I think there is some work to be done. And we've seen in the past year that collaboration is possible, and we will need more of that. No single entity out there, no single organization has all of the data and has all of the capacity to solve the complex problems in healthcare. And with healthcare, I mean the way that healthcare is being provisioned at hospitals and how we organize our healthcare, but also pharmaceutical companies that create new the welcome new therapies and devices that are being brought to patients constantly, and the different academic and research institutes. Having said that, I think what we will see is more usage of AI at the point of care. Doctors using AI, and we're working with hospitals today. For example, we're working with the Amsterdam UMC, University Medical Center, on applying AI for detecting tumors on CT scans of cancer patients. Not so much detecting, but looking at progress. For example, if a patient needs chemotherapy or is under chemotherapy, are those tumors shrinking? Is there an impact of the chemotherapy? And we have AI helping the doctors to evaluate that. And then fourth, I think you'll see a lot more personalized technology coming in our lives. If you have type 1 diabetes today and you need to measure your glucose levels in your blood, the fact that there will be AI looking over your shoulder and looking at those glucose levels and only giving you an alarm when you truly would end up very low or very high is meaningful for patients. And we often tend to forget that quality of life is not just by brand new innovative therapies, but about daily actions. And if we can help avoid alarm fatigue for diabetes patients, to give just one example, that's huge for these patients and will increase their quality of life. And so quality of life is important. Also, mental health is still a big problem in the world, and the ability to have AI help patients avoid taboos in society and help them find the right therapies with chatbots and with things like that is going to help enormously. So it's definitely an exciting world out there. And if there's one call to action I would like to do for your listeners, is we really want young researchers or researchers at large to help us out there. And we welcome people joining this effort because we need more brains. We need people with different perspectives, with creativity, to help patients lead healthier and longer lives, whether it's here in our richer countries or whether it's in the developing countries as well, which we shouldn't forget. And I think we also need probably to invest more in the application of these technologies in those countries as well to help global health systems. And what better time to consider this at a time of a global pandemic where we truly connected with each other globally on what is happening in the world.
I have a bonus question for you. I just came up with it belatedly, and it's about the possibility of eternal life. You know, I just can't help asking you about this because you read so much about it, and as many believe that AI can deliver on the promise of providing us with the prospect of eternal life. So, what's your personal opinion about it? Is it within reach anytime soon, or what are our opportunities here? What do you think?
Well, first of all, I think it's also whether it's in reach or not. I don't know if I want to live forever, and that's kind of an ethical and societal debate, right? But there's a broader scientific question here, and that's aging. And there's a lot of research going on into aging, and that can help us in the immediate term with things like cancer and aging of organs and replacement of organs, as you have pointed out. So I think that's great. I don't think eternal life is within reach anytime soon. Never say never, but I really think we're not there yet at this stage. The aging processes and the fact that how cells are working is so complex that in order to avoid that, that would mean a lot more knowledge from humans. But by searching for that and by looking for that, it's almost like the impact of space technology, right? We might not be going to Mars just tomorrow, but by trying to get there, we invent a whole lot of technology that is very useful to solve problems that we have today. And as long as we keep that broader context in perspective and truly what makes us humans as well, I think that's great, and we should support that.
Right. Well, we'll see what happens, right? But let's make a vow here, right now. Once the tech is available, I want to talk to you about it. Okay.
Just give me a call.
Yeah, sure thing. But please make sure to give me an alert, so that we can have an exclusive podcast episode about it and leak the latest details on the prospect of eternal life. And all the techniques.
We have a deal.
Good. Great. Thank you so much for these awesome insights, Mark. It was a pleasure talking to you. So much fun. Lots of food for thought, plenty of takeaways. We can't thank you enough for sharing your thoughts with us today.
Thank you so much, Levente, and thanks for having me on the show. And stay healthy, stay safe.
Same to you. And we really hope to talk to you at some point later again. As I just said, thank you guys for listening. And don't forget to check out the website of the Hungarian AI ecosystem at ai-hungary.com for the latest on what's happening around AI in Hungary and the CEE region. And for starters, take a look at Hungary's AI strategy that draws up an entire roadmap through 2030 in terms of policies, KPIs, and ambitions. So check out Hungary's vision of an AI-enabled future at ai-hungary.com. I also want to thank my colleague Adam Nötig, who's in charge of the sound and other technical matters. Follow us on social media and subscribe to the show. See you in the next episode. You listen to AI Studio, a podcast by the Hungarian Artificial Intelligence Coalition, which is the ultimate stakeholder forum of the local AI ecosystem. If you have any comments, ping us via our social media channels, and please help spread the word by sharing our content. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show, and thanks a lot for listening. We'll be back in our next episode with more great insights on AI.